Hey, quick one. Subscribe if you're done being a loser. Let's go.
But the one that's the hardest one is regret. Not making the decision almost always leads to regret. If you make a decision that's wrong, you can change it, make another one. Even those type 1 decisions, that Jeff Bezos talks about, most of them are still possible to change. This just takes a lot. So it's always possible to shift. What will screw your life up is not deciding, is living on the fence, because the brain does not do well with uncertainty, right? Well, that's one of the human needs, is the need for certainty. And the fastest way to certainty is just make some decisions and act on them and discover what's real. So I appreciate your meta comments about that, because I think it's really important to master both skills. I know so many people that have achieved so much and they're so unfulfilled. And there's so many people that are trying for fulfillment and they, it never lasts. It's because, you got to think about it. Everything in life is calling us to grow. And if you want to know what doesn't work, the pop psychology of self-care is not working any more than the hustle culture did. They're both extremes. Right? Life's a balance, right? And if you want to see what the results are, look at the medication. And millennials are known as the RX, not the X generation, the RX generation, right? So it's that is not solving it to feel good. Not feeling good is part of what gives you drive. It either destroys you or drives you. You have to make those choices. And most of us will not let it destroy us if we don't medicate ourselves, we find a way to push through. But if you don't have to, people go for comfort. And comfort will never make you proud. Comfort won't make you strong. Comfort will not allow you to inspire your kids or your community or your friends. But there's a greater thing than comfort that comes from fulfillment by pushing through and here's the other part. It's I hear the other pop culture element drives me crazy, is self-esteem. Oh, I don't have any self-esteem because when I was a child, people said these horrible things to me. And how convenient you only remember the horrible things they said to you, right? They said lots of things. But the truth of the matter is what people said to you makes no means whatsoever as to whether you feel like you have high self-esteem or not. Self-esteem is earned by yourself, with yourself. Someone can tell you your whole life, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you're so smart, and you can fear you're not. Right? People like that all the time, right?
Absolutely.
And they have all this anxiety because they thought they're the best in the world and they find out they're not. The parents overblew who they were at that stage. They didn't teach them to develop it or to push through or develop the muscle that would make them the best in the world at what they do. On the other hand, you can be told by people you're a piece of worthless piece of junk, you'll never be this, you're a piece of that, and that person can say, screw you, I'll show you who I am. So what people have said has zero impact on your self-esteem, and telling people they're great or not great does not change it. Teaching them to have grit, teaching them to push through. The way you develop esteem for yourself is by doing difficult things that you know are right. When you do something that you know is right, even though it's difficult, your esteem for yourself grows, and no one can take that away. You can take away money or material things. No one can take away who I've become as a man and my path, or you as a man, or anyone else as a woman. And I think it's really important to know that if you want to feel good about yourself, it's not by relaxing. Don't get me wrong, I know how to relax, I know how to take time, and I have a beautiful family. I have 5 kids and 5 grandkids, so I certainly have to be able to do that. And one of my kids is, thanks to COVID, I have a 51-year-old daughter and I have a 4-year-old daughter. So I have quite a spread at 60 when I'm gonna be 66 pretty soon. So to give you a sense, so my life is full, but it still has to have growth in it. It still has to have progress, and that's what makes it fulfilling.
Yeah, what's the difference between growth and hustle? Meaning?
Well, yes, exactly. Hustle, I'm just doing it to try to make money. If I'm busting my tail, but man, I know what I'm doing you know what it is? I measure people's lives. I have to give a 0 to 10 score on their body, not compared to someone else. Like your idea of a 10. When I was 20, I thought washboard abs was a 10 and I had them and my back hurt. My shoulders, I was out of balance, right? Everything else was screwed up, big biceps and weak in other areas. So I asked people, where are you 0 to 10 in your life today based on what you want for your life? Is it energy? What is it? Where are you 0 to 10 in the level of meaning and emotion? Because if you don't measure something, you can't manage it. I'm giving 0 to 10, a little description. Give me 0 to 10 where you are in your relationships. And the most important one, your intimate relationships, because friendships are easy, right? Where's that 0? And if you don't have one, that's 0. And you want to see that, so it pushes you, right? Where are you in, your, and this is the one that led me to it, is your work. Or is it for you a career? Or is it, a calling or a mission? And I already know who people are based on which word they pick. If it's work, it's work. If it's a career, they work at it and they're pretty fulfilled at it. But if it's mission, like I know you and I are both called. I don't have to do this another day of my life. I do it because it's my mission, it's my purpose. I believe it's what I'm made for. There is no amount of work that can wear you down when it's mission. Zero. And if you haven't found that, I would caution against one other thing, if I may. You've stirred me up with some different questions here. It's good. I think it's important to understand a lot of people are trying to find their purpose. What's my purpose? What's this big purpose? Who said you had one? Who said you had one for a lifetime? If you write down a purpose statement, this long mission statement, it sounds real good and you read it, it's never going to cover all of who you are, what you're for. I have a different purpose when I'm sitting down with my daughter, my youngest daughter, than I am with my oldest. I have a different sense of purpose in what I'm doing in this business is for that. I have a different purpose in our conversation today. Purpose is what gives life meaning. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to have one giant purpose that you're struggling to find. Life will evolve. And if you just keep moving forward in a purposeful manner, like whatever you do, there's some meaning to it, then I think you're going to find you're much more fulfilled. And those measurements, by the way, I would do them on your finances, and I do them on the spiritual side of life. Not religious, but like religio means celebration. Most people in religion don't have a lot of celebration anymore, right? Just a bunch of rules. So it's like, okay, I divide it as between how much are you celebrating your life? Because isn't this an unbelievable gift that we're sitting here breathing, this heart's beating, we don't have to work at it, that the skin's working, that we can have a conversation, that we can feel, that we live, that we can have our children. That's a miracle. We forget what a miracle it is just to be alive, right? So are you celebrating? And then are you contributing? Because celebration without contribution doesn't last, And so I say measure those things. But to answer your question specifically, I think it's critical that you understand stress comes from having activity without purpose is the drain on your emotional well-being.
Yeah, and that's what we're struggling with.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You just mentioned there you have a child who's 51 years old, and one that's 4.5.
I wouldn't call her a child now. She wouldn't appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who's 51.
Yeah, you have a daughter. You have a daughter. Sorry, yeah. You said you have a daughter who's 51 years old. You probably still see her as a child in some ways, I assume. I don't know. My mom can't stop seeing me as a child. But yes, you have a daughter who's 51 years old. You have a daughter who's 4.5 years old.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what being a dad at that age was like, and in your 20s,
yes,
to what being a dad in your 60s looks like. Like, what's different? What are the different challenges? What are the different lessons?
It's my favorite stage of life is this stage of life. I would say that first for everyone listening. I look at life in seasons. It's like I'm a big believer that the 3 skills we need to teach our kids or ourselves, especially in a world that in the next 5 to 10 years will have more change than any time in human history, between nanotechnology and AI and robotics and everything else. The world is going to change like never before. So how do you have an advantage there? You have to master 3 skills. You have to pattern recognition so that you're not fearful.
Yeah.
A lot of fear is because you think this is the only time this happened. Politically, we'll never have been this way. It's bullshit. I can show you stuff that makes Republicans and Democrats look nice to each other from the past. When you recognize a pattern, you go, okay, this has happened before, and seasons are one of those patterns, right? And then you're not fearful. And then the second part, it's not random. The second skill is mastering really pattern utilization. That's what gives you power in your life. Because now, a baby can't get out of this room until they recognize almost all rooms have an exit. And if I look around there, it's shaped a certain way. And there's a handle that if I pull it, I can get out of here. If you don't, you're trapped. So pattern recognition is power. At a little level, get out of the room. At a big level, if you look at somebody that's great in business, like how do I have all these companies? I couldn't even run one company with 5 employees. I was trying to do $1 million in business. I wasn't hitting it. And I was stressed out of my mind to now have 114 companies doing 10 billion. The difference is pattern recognition. It's like understanding and then learning how to use those patterns in those situations. So if you're good in business, there's certain patterns. If you're good at investing, there's certain patterns. If you've got good mental health, there's certain patterns. If you're physically well, there's certain patterns. If somebody's a good dancer, they recognize how to use patterns to produce a specific result. Spielberg has made movies for 40 years. He knows if I move in slowly like this, he knows if I go fast, what'll happen. If I pull back, if I bring the music up here. So anyone that you probably respect and like, doesn't just recognize patterns. They got great at using them. But the third level for me is pattern, a creation, where you really, it's like if you played music, you did it usually by playing someone else's music. Beethoven, Bach, whoever you did, you learned someone else's patterns. And you did that long enough, you could use it, and then one day, you start to come through. You start to become a creator, right? We stand on the shoulders of the people before us.